What's up, y'all? Nexus Nerd here, and let's talk about Shang-Chi.
And the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Let's go. What's up, y'all? Nexus Nerd here, and I just finished watching Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm going to do my initial thoughts, then I'm going to break down the movie a little bit and explain to you guys who and what Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is about, and then we're going to get into the review and possible theories at the end. Alright? So, with that being said, the initial thoughts of mine, I did a quick video on TikTok with my first immediate reaction in the parking lot of the movie theater. I went to go see it in IMAX, and it's definitely a movie that needs to be seen if you love anything Kung Fu or Marvel or anything like that. Go support this movie if you haven't already. So, initial thoughts, I think it's, if not one of the best or the best origin story of the MCU or Marvel Studios as a whole. So with the cinematography and the representation that this movie was supposed to bring, it delivered. The action is amazing. The pacing of the movie is outstanding. There was no slow parts, quote unquote. If there was people talking, it was pretty much comedy. If it was a backstory, it was action. And so make sure, before I say anything else, possible spoilers when I talk about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings as a whole movie. So before I say anything about the whole movie as a whole and just trying to break it down for you guys, there is two post-credit scenes at the end. That one is a mid-credit scene, and one is the end credit scene. And I won't try to spoil as much as I can, so bear with me if I do spoil something. But yeah, with the whole movie as a start, obviously the main protagonist is Shang-Chi, and him moving to San Francisco, I believe, to get away from the criminal empire of his father that his father has been holding for thousands of years because of his 10 rings. And that's the criminal name, pretty much. The criminal empire that he has is based off the 10 rings that he got thousands of years ago. We start off in the movie with the father taking over as much as he can with territory because of all the power that he wants, and the rings giving him pretty much eternal life and other mystical powers. In the movie, it doesn't really explain that much of where the rings come from or what they are possible of doing, but you can see throughout the movie, especially towards the end when Shang-Chi gets those rings versus the dad, who is more worthy of those rings, and so on and so forth. But we start off with the movie with the dad trying to conquer everything. Thousands of years pass, and we're back with Shang-Chi in present day, in San Francisco. That he's pretty much been 10 years away from his dad, that he ran away, and he found his new friends and new family in San Francisco that he's been living with. He's got his own job. Then out of nowhere, he gets attacked by one of a few of the assassins that his dad sent out from his criminal empire. And this movie definitely does a good job with the continuity and everything that the MCU has done so far. Like, it has references from even back from the first Iron Man to Iron Man 3 and so on and so forth. There were so many references. So even if it felt like it was different than the regular MCU movie, it's still an MCU movie, and it's exactly what it did, what it set out to do. It was its own thing, but it definitely had hints and vibes of the Marvel Universe. Now we also get into the middle of the movie where he has to go find his sister because he just got attacked by his father's assassins, and so they're coming for her next because they have a necklace that unlocks a secret maze that the dad has, that the mother left for them when the mother passed away, because a big part of the movie is going to a mystical island or part of the world that no one else knows about, pretty much, and it's guarded by a big maze, and it's guarded by people from pretty much, I think, from another universe that has mystical creatures and everything. And that's where the mother came from. When the mother and the father of Shang-Chi decided to have, you know, Shang-Chi and his sister, they had to leave that town and that city behind, because they wouldn't accept Shang-Chi's father into the city. So when the mother dies, the father has Shang-Chi trained day and night for, I think, 7 years or 10 years, just constantly to be an assassin. That's why Shang-Chi is so good at all types of fighting styles, especially in martial arts. So we go to see Shang-Chi finding his sister, and her base of operation that she has built on her own, that is pretty much like a underground fighting tournament type thing. And that's where we see other MCU characters fighting it out, and it's definitely a cool Easter egg moment that you see here and there. Then obviously we see them team up to fight the assassins that come after them. So then we go to pretty much the third act of the movie. Shang-Chi and his sister and the group that he has finds that city that's hidden before his father does. They get suited up, they get ready for battle. They warn all this the people in his mother's town to get ready for war with his father. So then the father comes in, the town is ready to fight. They're pretty much upgraded. Shang-Chi's suit is pretty much upgraded with dragon scales, which is amazing, which is super cool. And that's the only thing to defeat the main villain, or the big bad of this movie at the end. So we go from them having a battle with each other with the 10 rings and the secret city to them having to team up because the dad has actually, you know, passed the army to go open up the gate that he's been thinking that it's his wife calling to him, but it's a demonic dragon looking thing that has been trying to come in through a portal. It's kind of all kinds of crazy, but it's definitely worth while because the special effects and the CGI is awesome. It's magical creatures, you know, so it's gonna look kind of weird, but it's still super cool. We're gonna see dragons, we're gonna see monsters, and crazy things are gonna happen in the third act. But the dad pretty much, you know, almost winning the day, the villain, you know, and what makes a Marvel movie good is that we've been sympathizing with the villains lately, right? We understand where Thanos is coming from. We understand where Eric Killmonger is coming from. We understand where like Loki's coming from, right? So it's not that different from Shang-Chi's father, the Mandarin. Right? This is what we know him as, the Mandarin. He has many names, and that's what that third act of the movie does. You know, we realize that the father is just wanting his mother or his wife back, and we see that a mystical creature is trying to lure him in, and since he has the 10 rings, Shang-Chi has to stop him, right? Shang-Chi didn't want the rings, you know, he wants to stop his dad from destroying the universe pretty much, right? So the big battle happens. Shang-Chi ends up getting the rings from the father that was about to get that was dying from the big monster that he let out, to then having those 10 rings to destroy the final boss pretty much. And once he was done with that, they went back to the town, clearing everything up, went back home to San Francisco, and that's pretty much the end until the post-credit scenes pretty much, that Wong comes back and talks to them, and they talk in the post-credit scene, and then we see where the sister is in the second post-credit scene. And so I think overall the cinematography, the pacing, and everything of this movie, the action and everything, is what it set out to be. And so let's get into the review part. So this is my first review on any movie, and I wanted to do a little bit differently than most people do. Most people would just do a 10 out of 10 scale. I'm gonna do, depending on the movie, I'm gonna do like a category of each category that I will do it, and then I'll average it out. So right now I have 12 categories, and I'm gonna calculate everything and then divide it by 12, and that's gonna be whatever the number is out of 12. So with that being said, the first one is acting, and I gave it a 7.8 out of 10, just as an acting as a whole. There was obviously that parts of the movie that overshadowed others, like action. Obviously, it was an action movie, so that's what it set out to be. Not saying that the actors are, and the whole movie was bad acting. It was just, I think, the lowest score out of all the category that I had. But individually, the actors did great, So, but like as a whole movie, the acting was off at some parts for me, at least. Obviously, I'm not a professional. I'm just giving my personal opinion on this. I'm trying not to be biased because I could give this a 12 out of 12 because I love Marvel that much. And I love this movie just as much, but keep that in mind. So the next thing was supporting actors, or at least what the supporting cast did with the acting that they were doing. They did amazing. All the subtle references that they had with who they brought back, pretty much with the comedy that they had to bring to the table, and the action that they did was outstanding. I gave that a 8.1 out of 12. The next thing was the main actors. So Simu Liu, Aquafina, and other people that were in the main cast. The father, the sister, and stuff like that. They did amazing when they were in their solo parts of the movie. So, and when they communicated with each other, it was definitely authentic, So that came out really good, and I gave it an 8.3 out of 12. So next up, it's cinematography. This movie is amazing with the cinematography, the colors, the aspect of each frame of the movie sold it for me. Like right off the bat, the trailers did it for me, but seeing it on the big screen is a whole different story. So I gave it a 9.2 out of 12. So the pacing of this movie is also amazing as well. The fact that there was no quote unquote slow moments, and when people were like just talking or trying to explain the movie, it was engaging. It was the comedy was there when it needed to be there. The action and the flashbacks needed to be there. So the pacing was an 8.5 out of 12 for me. So continuity or connectivity to the broader MCU, which the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think is a 10 out of 12. It connects from back all the way to the first Iron Man, and everything pretty much in between. It goes, I think it's set after Endgame, I believe, and obviously the post-credit scenes set up a bigger universe for Shang-Chi to be in other movies. Like I mentioned earlier, the comedy is amazing. The fact that the actors that were there for comedy, even the actors that were the main actors, had a big role with the comedy relief. So they all had a balanced, equal relationship with the comedy. I gave it a 9.5 out of 12 because there was really good timing, and I heard literally all the people in the theater laughing at the moments that they needed to be laughing at. The next category is action, and this was an action movie. I believe that obviously we didn't get undersold or oversold. I think it came out to perfectly perform those actions, and the fighting choreography of it led it to be smooth and authentic for the Asian representation and the martial arts community. With that being said, I gave it a 10.5 out of 12. Because not only the hand-to-hand combat was amazing, but like the big fight scene at the end with all the big explosions and monsters was very entertaining as well. So let's talk about the plot of the movie. This is the next thing of the categories. I'm almost halfway done there, and I gave the plot of the movie an 8 out of 12 just because there was no big reveal or any big twist that we didn't see coming. I think, and the plot of the movie, it definitely was not too basic, but not too. You can tell like it was like a good storyline. It wasn't nothing extraordinary, but it wasn't nothing like bland either. So I gave it an 8 out of 12. So let's talk about wardrobe design and costumes. I gave wardrobe and costumes a 9.3 out of 12. Obviously, they did amazing. They did the same thing that Black Panther did for Black Panther, but for Shang-Chi, and the representation that they had to do for Asian culture. Now, I gotta say, the CGI is always amazing in Marvel, right? Since day one, they've outperformed themselves on CGI and special effects. So, with that being said, obviously, we don't have dragons in this world, so they gotta go based off what they can reference. And the big monsters that they've had, and like little subtle Asian Chinese mythical creature lore that they had. They did really well with it. And but yeah, so I gave CGI a 9 out of 12. So this last category will not be for every film that I review, but just for some, just because obviously in Marvel we're used to post-credit scenes, right? And this one had 2 post-credit scenes at the end that I will try not to spoil, but it definitely sets up Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, you know, both separately pretty much. Like the first post-credit scene was to set up Shang-Chi and his future with the Ten Rings, the actual Ten Rings. And then in the second post-credit scene, we see with the sister setting up with the crime empire that is named the Ten Rings that her father left behind, that she's taken over. And I give the post-credit scenes to set up the future a 10 out of 12. I can't wait. So with all 12 categories that I explained for my review pretty much done, and here's my final review on it. As a total movie, I believe it's a 9 out of 12. Now, it's different than your ranking. Obviously, this is a personal opinion, and I thought it was an amazing movie. It's one of the best, if not the best, origin stories for the MCU. And the fact that we're going to see Shang-Chi even a little bit more now, since he's a prominent, you know, character in the MCU, he's here to stay. Let's put it this way. And the characters that are in it and everything about him is gonna be super fun to explore a little bit more of. We got a good backstory on him and other characters in the franchise, and it's definitely gonna be like the next Iron Man. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have 3+ movies and feature in other Avengers movies, because this movie is just outstanding, and the character of Shang-Chi is so legendary. That's why it's called Legend of the Ten Rings. So I think it's gonna be an amazing thing to come out and see in the future, and now especially. So if you haven't seen it already, make sure you go see Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And for a quick theory, I want to talk about the post-credit scenes, right? At the post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, Wong takes him to one of the Sanctum Sanctorums, I think in Carmitage, I believe, and they have a endgame type communication system with Bruce Banner and Captain Marvel, talking about what these 10 rings are, because no one knows what they are, what happened. And the end final battle scene, they changed from when the dad had it from blue to gold, pretty much, when Shang-Chi had it. So when I think it turned into gold, it activated a homing beacon. That's what Wong said. And so I think that's gonna set up, like, I've heard theories from a bunch of people already talking about like Galactus and you know, Fing Fang Foom, and how, you know, it connects to the comics and stuff like that. But I think, I don't know when exactly this is set in the timeline of Marvel movies, but I believe that we're gonna see Shang-Chi, if not in Doctor Strange, I think again by the end of the Phase 4 movies, just because something big is coming, and I don't know if it's going to be directly linked to Shang-Chi, or if it's going to be the big multiverse storyline that's happening right now. But definitely expect to see Shang-Chi in future movies, especially super soon. We might even see him in Disney Plus. They might have a Disney Plus series for his sister, which is might be teasing like what we see in the background. Obviously, it might connect to Falcon and the Winter Soldier in the sense of like characters that we might see, like Sharon Carter teaming up with Shang-Chi's sister, and so on and so forth. But you guys need to go see this movie, and it's outstanding. So all I gotta say is thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, comment, share, do everything that you need to do. Obviously, this review is gonna evolve, and I'm gonna do differently just to see how I would like it. But thank you guys for staying tuned. Make sure you guys go see and support Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Let's go.